Yes, yes. Yeah, yesterday, Jackson, I mean, I know a lot of people remember the Rose Bowl sunset take, but I'll remember that you had the wrong music to start the show.
Yep.
You look like an English professor today. I haven't seen you. Even though we've done a show together for 3 hours, I haven't seen you. You got a little turtleneck on and like a sweater.
Yeah.
You look like an English professor from a 1970s movie.
That's not a bad look. It's kind of in style now.
It's very elite.
Yeah, well, if the shoe fits.
Welcome in, friends. It's Munganess, Burkhardt, Alton Toyota's presentation of Balloon Party. I would tell you it's the best 1 hour midday show in St. Louis.
I would agree. I don't think,
Thank you. Thank you for the delicious compliment. You can text into it at 314-399-9646, Air Comfort Service text line. And then we got this YouTube chat. That is a hotbed of activity. I haven't opened it up just yet, but I'm going there right now, youtube.com. And then I type 101 ESPN, and I see Balloon Party is live. And, yeah, the people are in there. Eric Bishop's in there. Danny Jansen's in there. Sean
Aston.
No, was
Alexander.
that Rudy?
Yeah, that was Rudy.
Do you say Busher?
Let's go with Busher.
Thank you. Pretty excited to hear Jackson's take on USA Hockey's big game at the World Juniors. That's what Sean Busher says?
I don't really have a take, considering I was unaware that it happened. I know that...
Did the Blues play tonight?
Yeah, they take on that club from Vancouver. They call them the Canucks.
That's right.
Yeah, if we didn't talk about it yesterday, I wouldn't have known.
I told the audience on Tuesday that my 6-year-old, for whatever reason, wanted a Canucks sweater for Christmas. And I got him one. Elias Pettersson, of course, number 40.
Right, Elias.
Thank you. But I don't plan to go to the game tonight, and so it's very important that he doesn't see me watching the game. Because then he'll say, oh, the Blues are playing the Canucks. How come we're not at the game?
Yeah.
And then that's going to cause a problem at the house, eh?
I hear that.
I know if I was over at your house, we wouldn't run into that problem, probably.
No, that would not be an issue.
What happened to the commitment you made in October to watch more Blues hockey?
Dissolved completely.
I mean, you weren't even hemming or hawing on any of this. Here you are, dressed up as an English school professor and making no apologies for the fact that you are not watching Drew Bannister's club.
Yeah, I might tune in for a little tonight.
Because you like the Canucks sweater?
Not against it. Logo, it's fine.
They change often.
Yeah, it's the whole West Coast hockey has a real problem with the uniforms. Outside of Seattle, they really don't do it right. Having said that, I probably will tune in for maybe a period tonight, and that'll probably do it.
Take the under if anybody's interested in betting.
Yeah, I'll be on my phone the whole time, but I'll.
What do you got going on?
I was dibbling and dabbling.
What's that mean?
Scrolling. There's a lot to look at on that old internet, man. Holy mackerel.
What are you looking at? I'm really curious.
Reading stuff, tweets, articles, passages. I've been getting into passages, scrimshaw, all the above. Yeah, kind of into it all. Just trying to better myself, hence the turtleneck today.
That's a conscious effort.
I'm debuting this turtleneck. It's a new one. I got it for Prominent Winter Holiday, and I'm feeling really good about it.
Jackson looks like he's ready for his photo shoot for his Christmas album cover. That's from Darren Carlisle.
Bad singer, really bad singer, so I wouldn't do that. But I could see myself, some sort of Christmas novel, maybe. I feel like a novelist in this.
Jackson looks like a TA in a philosophy class. That's from Eric Nickens.
Yeah.
Is Jackson's girlfriend dressing him now? That's from Mr. Smith.
No, this is my creation.
Did you get that for the holidays?
I did.
Did you really?
I got this.
You got the whole ensemble.
No. I purchased the jacket shirt combo here. I purchased the pant, the shoes, but the turtleneck.
All at once, simultaneously.
And within like a week or two of each other. Talk about shopping at brick and mortar stores.
Where do you go? I assume you go to Mr. Guy?
Right. So the parking lot at Saks and Neiman was too big, like too many people there. I like to usually go by myself.
Right. Yeah, I think MICDS had parent-teacher that day.
Yeah. So I went to Macy's, brag, and then followed that up with a little trip to Nordstrom Rack and just loving on that Brentwood traffic, man. Oh, it's so smooth getting around there. There's no,
very nice.
6-lane roads, super easy to navigate.
I miss the Burger King.
Yeah, well, there was a Burger King there, right across, right next to the Rally House there.
Rally House.
Yeah.
Rally House.
Yeah, I don't think they're doing much with it. Seems like some weeds have been overgrown around there.
Yeah, shrubs and the like. Yeah. Jackson, what do we have on this Thursday thoroughfare? I assume we will break down the Blues and Canucks as they try to halt the two-game skid and really peak in January as they are going to face some of the NHL's best oppositions.
Hey, Vin, good to see you again. I actually do have a Blues question, not for the first one.
Oh, what's the first question? Now, this is interesting because the lead is not obvious. This is going to put you to the test here. And what is the name of this segment?
So it was
Piddles.
It was originally the Little Piddles Thursday Thoroughfare.
Alliteration.
But our cohort on TMA, Ken Iggy Strode.
30 years in radio.
Yeah.
Most of it spent in AM/HD2. So we call that the big time.
And an executive at 1380 The Woman.
Thank you.
Never forget that.
Executive producer.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And they got paid like 75% of the time.
Absolutely. Yeah. For the long run they had.
Mm-hmm.
He had a problem with the term thoroughfare. He's saying that the dictionary is getting a little too overcrowded. So this is the Little Pills Thursday Thoroughfare DBA Ken's Mixed Bag.
Oh, it's got a DBA?
Yeah, Ken's Mixed Bag.
Nice. Registered with the Secretary of State. All right, let's go. What do we got? What is the lead? I'm curious what the lead is. Where are you going?
LSU firing Matt House leaves a hole.
Wow.
In their defensive coordinator role.
It's like we're in the South now.
Mm-hmm. Better believe it.
Leading with college football news.
That's right.
Oh, I wonder how that's going to play with the audience. I don't know. Maybe they like it. Maybe we are in the South now.
When I put a turtleneck on, I don't give a rat's ass what these people think, baby. It's all me all the time. Missouri DC, Blake Baker is a top candidate to join Brian Kelly's staff. Do you think Baker making the move to Baton Rouge is a strong possibility? Is he trying to become, if he is trying to become a head coach, would this be the right path to travel on?
Wow, I am surprised. I immediately, before opining, I go to the Twitter tweets just to see if anything is new.
Yeah, and
click on the what the Colonel's got to say. Let's see. Chris Abrams-Drain is headed to the NFL. Not that that's surprising.
And this
just happened with the, that just was tweeted 18 minutes ago, but nothing new on Blake Baker. So for the record, because I think there is a healthy percentage of the audience who might not be aware of this news, Brian Kelly, who's a Southern debutante from Southie, who grinds on high school recruits when they visit Baton Rouge, fired his defensive staff after the greatest show on turf that is the Wisconsin Badgers moved the ball up and down the field on his defense in the game that everybody's still talking about from New Year's Day, the ReliaQuest Bowl. And so Matt House was terminated along with former DeSmet coach Robert Steeples, who went down there to be on the LSU defensive staff. And so Blake Baker, who is the Missouri defensive coordinator, who just signed an extension, I think like a week ago.
Yeah, it was him and Kirby, I think, signed right up the same day.
Is considered the favorite by some in college football circles. And Gabe Yarman of Power Mizzou, who I will cite as a source, says there is a lot to this. I text Jackson at 6 o'clock in the morning often. Today I texted you to get the Rory McIlroy sound from his podcast. That's actually worthy of being talked about.
Yeah.
And then I texted Gabe as well. I said, Colonel, let me ask you a question here. Percentage Blake Baker leaves a week after signing his extension in Columbia to go to LSU. The Colonel said 50.5%. 50.5%. So some people are like breaking it down. Well, is LSU a better job and so on and so forth? Taking all that out of the equation, here are a couple fun facts that you may not be aware of. Number one, he was fired from LSU by Brian Kelly. How about that? Number two, his wife played soccer at LSU. And number three, Blake Baker himself has Tulane roots. Played there. Mm-hmm. So there is an attraction that may be more personal for him than the average football coach. Now, I would imagine damn near everybody listening to this program is not aware of LSU's football schedule next year. LSU's football schedule includes, in addition to SEC opposition, Alabama and Ole Miss. And Ole Miss is expected to be a big threat next year. They start the season with USC, and 3 weeks later they play UCLA. I don't know what the hell's going on there, but good for them.
Yeah.
And they also have Oklahoma in addition to it, with Oklahoma coming from the Big 12 to the SEC. They got a hell of a schedule and some big-time offenses when you're talking about Ole Miss. Who knows what Alabama will have, but Milroe will be back, right?
Yeah.
And then you would think that Lincoln Riley will have something going, even though he won't have Caleb Williams. So with that all said, if you're a defensive coordinator, is that the move? In a normal year, you go, oh, you can go to LSU as opposed to Columbia? Well, you go to LSU. But next year, Missouri actually might be a better spot. The other thing I would say is Blake Baker and Kirby Moore will not be on Missouri's staff in 2026, and I would put a 5-star lock on that. And that's not a shot at them. That's just an observation of two coaches who are trending, probably could have been head coaches this offseason, just would have had to settle for a job, but maybe in a spot where they can go to a good job for their first head coaching job if Missouri does go to the college football playoff this coming year. And considering Missouri's schedule versus LSU's, Missouri's would be more favorable, which is weird to say in a year when they traveled to Tuscaloosa and College Station for that matter, but specifically a Tuscaloosa trip, which I would imagine most people just already kind of rule out as being a loss. They also host Oklahoma, they host Auburn, but the non-conference schedule is weak as all get out. So with that said, if I were just judging it through that lens, I would say stay in Columbia, taking my affinity for Missouri out of it. But if he has family ties there and he goes, yeah, maybe this year will be great in Columbia, but I'm out after next year, that's a different situation. I think he stays in Columbia. I think he stays in Columbia. Even though the Colonel said 50.5%, I'm going to say I think he stays in Columbia. What do you think?
So the Colonel, I think, articulated my thoughts on if he's leaving or not perfectly. I think it's a total coin flip if he does go or doesn't, because I totally understand what you're saying with Mizzou's non-conference schedule. And if you are trying to be a coach, not this year, but next year, by next year, I mean 2025 season, yeah, being at Missouri might actually put you in a better spot than LSU. My other thought, and which makes it a coin flip for me, is if you are able to turn around an LSU defense that was so pitiful last year, that had such a great offense, which even more highlighted how bad the defense was. If you're able to turn that around for
you give LSU's team Missouri's defense this year,
they're as good as any team in the country.
That's correct, because they had the best player in the country.
Yeah, without a doubt. And so, LSU is a 5-star prestige program.
Blue blood.
As blue blood as it gets.
Money, yourself in the turtleneck.
Yeah, then there's probably only 10 college football teams who could be in that 5-star prestige level over their entire existence, and LSU is certainly one of them. If you're able to turn that around after how bad it was, I mean, you are as wanted as any coach in the country. So that's a bigger risk. You're taking a bigger risk going to LSU with a defense that's kind of depleted, but with how quick you're able to turn things around, there's something to consider. If you're going to stay at Missouri and you think the team can get 8, 9, 10, maybe even 11 wins, you're still going to be one of the most sought-after coaches in the country.
Well, I don't know if an 8-win season has people buzzing. If you're a top 10 preseason and you finish 8-4, that ain't gonna give you much equity.
Let's go 9 or 10. Let's go 9 or 10 wins, 11 possibility. If you think that you can get there, finish in the top 5 in the SEC, top 3 in the SEC, have a chance for the college football playoff, and you're the defensive coordinator and the defense is dominant like they were last year, boy, you are going to be.
And you have Williams Winery coming in.
Yeah.
In addition to some
huge
returning players and some success in the transfer portal on that side of the football. So this is something Gabe thinks will be wrapped up by the end of the weekend at the latest. It is Thursday now, even though we had a holiday this week. And it's a big moment. This is the cost of doing business at this level of college football now that Missouri finds itself in after one successful season. And if you want to sustain it, you've got to try to fend off these pursuits. If anything, it's flattering that you have a program of LSU's ilk knocking on your defensive coordinator's door. But it's the cost of doing business. With this comes people pursuing your people and also expectations from your fan base. And I welcome it.
Yeah.
That's the cost of greatness. And that is something that I think is long overdue in Columbia, Missouri, that people view it through that prism. It is a year in which Missouri could be in the playoff. But will Blake Baker be a part of it? That is what Jackson went with for the lead. It's 10:17. This time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers. We will continue on this Little Piddles Thursday thoroughfare doing business as Ken's
mixed bag.
You can text in 314-399-9646. Air Comfort Service text line. And the YouTube chat, youtube.com, 101 ESPN channel, very active in there as always during Balloon Party. This is Balloon Party, presented to you by Munganess, Burkhardt, Alton Toyota on 101 ESPN and the 101 ESPN YouTube channel. Munganess, Burkhardt, Alton Toyota, presenting sponsor of Balloon Party on 101 ESPN and the 101 ESPN YouTube channel. A lot of people get themselves in a spot where if you need a new car or pre-owned car, or you just need to get your car serviced, it becomes a real headache. And I understand that. And I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just telling you that now that I know the people at Munganess, Burkhardt, Alton Toyota, if anything, I go, oh, it's a chance to talk it over with Jamie Burkhardt because he's one of the finest people I know. Forget about the fact that he's got his name on the dealership. I'm just talking about in general. He's a great guy. And so I look forward to talking it over. Nobody looks forward to having issues with their car. But if you know you're dealing with good people who you can trust, especially in the automotive industry, then it's actually a pleasant experience. Work with the best online at altontoyota.com, or they even give out a secret number for our listeners. You can call or text, and one of the people in charge will get back to you right away. That number is 314-252-0029. Munganess, Burkhardt, Alton Toyota. Some breaking baseball news of note. Harrison Bader is staying in New York, except he's going from the Bronx to Queens. Nice. Harrison Bader to the Mets.
Good for him. Good for him. Hope for nothing but the best. I remember when he left St. Louis, or was traded, I should say, for Jordan Montgomery. He wrote a great piece.
He did.
In the Players Tribune, and they did a little video with it. And I thought that was really, that was high class.
Mark Feinsand, maybe he goes by Mike, 1 year, $10.5 million with the Mets.
Yeah, hope for nothing but the best. I mean, elite speed like that's hard to come by.
Jackson, we are in the midst of this Thursday thoroughfare here on Munganess, Burkhardt, Alton Toyota's balloon party. It's also doing business as Ken's Mixed Bag. Mm-hmm. I was surprised by the lead of Blake Baker, but I'm not saying it was wrong because I don't know what the alternative would be. I don't know. I'm open to anything.
Kind of a weird
This is
time.
your show.
Yeah, thank you. It feels like.
And by the way, Jackson and I will be doing the Tim McKernan show. We're trying to do the show every single day after Balloon Party. It's up. We're live on YouTube at 11:15, youtube.com/TMISTL. And of course, you can subscribe to the Tim McKernan Show podcast and listen in the fun games. And that is non-sports. It can be sports. It's just anything. And any question, comment, you can rip my ass, rip Jackson's ass. T McKernan at InsideSTL.com, TMCKERNAN at InsideSTL.com. Any topic is welcome. Anything. I mean, anything. And we're doing that every day. At least we've started to. And I'd like to continue it. So anyway, that's at 11:15. That's like 5 or 6 hours of broadcasting.
Not enough is what I say.
Yeah, I mean, why not do all 24 hours?
Just literally always on the air.
Yeah.
Seems like people do that a lot. Yeah. These streamers, man. Either way, let's
It's question 2.
Let's strap on the steel slippers. We'll talk a little ice hockey. When looking at the DNA for the 2019 team, that was able to
Was
make
that pause like a Jim Rome pause? Was it? Did you lose your place on your script?
I honestly wanted to see how long I could pause without you giggling.
Oh, I would have gone until 11.
When looking,
I sometimes young tykes for whatever reason, because if I were a young tyke, I'd stay away from me.
Yeah, right.
Engage in staring contests with me. I have no idea how or why. Sounds like something that the law might want to look into. And I'm like, let's go. You're 6, friend of my son's. You're going to lose, and I will Phil Ivy their souls.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm
not going to lose.
I'm pretty good at staring contests.
You want to have a staring contest?
Should we do it on the air? No talking?
I think we probably should just do that on QFTA.
Is that the moment the show jumps the shark?
I don't know if the show is ever not.
Yeah, that's fair. When looking at the DNA for the 2019 Blues team that was able to make such an incredible turnaround.
Taking a walk down memory lane. 5 years ago since Gloria.
5 years ago. Isn't that nuts?
It does stand out to me.
Isn't that crazy?
So I can picture being at that game, clinching the West against the Sharks with my wife and my dad. And it's just like one of my favorite moments. It really is, probably because of who I was with. And I'm going, God, that was 5 years ago.
It's crazy.
Man.
It's crazy. Yeah. It's crazy. That's senior year of college for me. They were able to make such an incredible turnaround. What is the 2023-2024 team missing in that DNA helix that gave the 2019 team?
DNA helix, all while wearing the turtleneck.
Yeah, there's no mistakes here. Everything's intentional. It's like a Kubrick film that the 2019 team was able to tap into. In general, do you think the Blues fans should be excited for the short-term future of the franchise or proceed with caution with their emotional investment for the next season or 2?
I would love to start 2024 by blowing smoke up the backsides of the listeners. But you know what this program is called, Jackson?
Honesty in the media.
You better believe it, brother.
Yeah.
And therefore, you can like it, you can dislike it. Honestly, it's just not my concern at this point in my life. But I am going to tell you what I think. And I do not see that happening. And I think, even though I can't imagine many people were thinking it was possible in January, at this point, January of 2019, I think if we were to step back and look at the respective rosters, you would go, the 2019 team certainly had more tools in place. Number one, Alex Pietrangelo would certainly stand out. Vladimir Tarasenko would certainly stand out. Ryan O'Reilly, coming over from Buffalo, would certainly stand out. And it certainly became the strategy that played a role in their run, and that was they could roll 4 lines at you and dominate and penalize teams over the course of playing them night in and night out, as was the case, I think, with every series they had. The way the Blues dominated games their record in games 5, 6, 7, and every one of the series went to a minimum of 6. The Jets and the Sharks, and then the series against the Stars and Bruins going 7. And the Blues records in games 5, 6, and 7, they were dominant. I think it was probably in the 67% to 75% win percentage. And the guys at the Sharks couldn't even send a team out in game 6 here. They were so beat up. This team doesn't have that. And Jeremy Rutherford was on with us on TMA yesterday. And I don't think I asked about the chances of them repeating that run. I think I asked about the long-term coaching situation, like how likely is it that Drew Bannister gets the gig? And I see that this morning in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, Ben Frederickson wrote that he thinks Drew Bannister will wind up getting the gig. I think Rutherford thinks that that's certainly possible. And if you remember, Craig Berube's tenure did not start off successfully if you isolate it to immediately after the firing of Mike Yeo. It took until January. Well, Yeo was fired. I think it was November 19th, if I'm not mistaken, right around there in 2018. So with that all said, why do I say all of this when I asked Rutherford about that? He said, yeah, this is a team that might be able to get into the playoffs, but it isn't. He's just like dismissive of the team being able to make a deep run. And I would love to say, I suppose in hockey, perhaps right there with baseball, I guess, you can just get in and maybe something can happen, whereas that's going to be tougher in the other sports. But I just don't see it happening. And I think as far as whether you want to talk about short-term, long-term, it still falls under this umbrella. The organization is saddled with contracts that are going to make their success in the ceiling limited. And that is, at the start of it, the biggest problem the St. Louis Blues have at this moment.
I actually have a hockey take.
You find yourself surprised, like a curious finger has arrived in your chair.
Well, so often we talk about hockey, and if you were to turn to me and say, do you have any thoughts, I would have absolutely nothing.
I paused expecting you to go to question 3, candidly.
And maybe I'm repeating what you just said, but hey, you know what?
Did you zone out while I was talking?
Well, I was thinking about my take, and I'm not sure if you said my take while I was thinking of my take, because, one thing at a time, maybe. Either way.
Run that for a promo.
That's right. Anyone listening, if you are. And we're talking about that helix, that DNA helix.
Yeah. Well, you said that.
Right. It's my show. And, you look at the 2019 team, obviously the star power that was there, O'Reilly, Tarasenko, Strong.
I'm so anxious for what I'm about to hear.
But, with the 2019 team, the physicality is what separated them come playoff time. They were just, like you said, with the Sharks, just beating up on teams and just always staying in games because they're always going to fight. I just don't.
You were a fan of the forecheck.
Yeah. Once I find out what that word means, I was a really big fan.
Where's Jamie River?
And so I just don't think this team has the physicality. The few games I've watched.
Nothing bolsters a gentleman's point.
Right. Well, if I could put it just in one moment, the game before the day of Berube's firing, Jordan Kyrou gets beat out on a puck on the boards and they score. That is in a microcosm. What's happened? They just sometimes get beat on the physical side. I don't remember that being the case in 2019. In fact, I remember it being the opposite.
Right. Well, when it gets down to it, I just don't think that it's there. But at the same time, as we were told by Doug Armstrong at the start of the season, he knew it wasn't there either. The thing is, I still watch with the hope. Last year it got to a point where I kind of wouldn't mind them losing at the tail end of the season.
Right.
But, I'll be watching tonight, as long as my 6-year-old isn't around. And in the back of my mind, boy, if they can just get in. And then if they do get in, man, if they can just, I never, going into that series against the Avalanche 2 years ago, I had very low hope, knowing how good the Avalanche were. And then sure enough, when it heads back to St. Louis, the series is tied at 1, and Jordan Binnington has gone from being the backup at the start of the Wild series to standing on his head, and then he gets hurt, and then things begin to spiral. But the Blues played a hell of a series, so that can happen. Yeah. And we've seen plenty of 8 seeds make it to the Stanley Cup final. And a couple of times we've been here in St. Louis on the receiving end with the Sharks in 2000 and the Kings in 2012 of these 8 seeds that can go on runs. Chris Pronger, a part of an 8 seed that went to the Cup finals in Edmonton. So you can see it happen. Just get in. When I look at it, it would really surprise me. But at the same time, if I were hosting this show 5 years ago and you would ask about the Stanley Cup final, that was it was a foreign topic, the Stanley Cup final for, the vast majority of the people who weren't alive when the Blues had last been to one. So I'll watch with hope. And you know what? Hope is a wonderful thing, perhaps the best of all things. Morgan Freeman read Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah.
I think I said that word for word.
I think you nailed it.
I know I delivered it confidently at the very least.
Yeah, that was great.
Thank you so much.
Voiceover's awesome.
Read.
Yeah.
Morgan Freeman. Brooks was here.
Oh, man. What a film.
All right, we'll have questions 3, 4, 5, and 6 coming up in the second half here on the Little Piddles Thursday Thoroughfare DBA Ken's Mixed Bag. This is Balloon Party, driven by Mungan Burkhardt, Alton Toyota on 101 ESPN and the 101 ESPN YouTube channel.
This is Action Jackson with a Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. The Blues are back in action tonight as they take on the Vancouver Canucks. You can catch that game right here on the home of the Blues. That's 101 ESPN. The pregame starts at 6 p.m. and the puck drops at 7. And last night, the Pacers defeat the Bucks 142-130. The Bucks have 10 losses on the season. 4 of them have come at the hands of Tyrese Halliburton and the Indiana Pacers. That was our Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff. Find new roads and shop 24/7 at londoff.com and londoffautoplex.com. Are you kidding me?
Welcome back. Balloon Party 101 ESPN. Tim McKernan, Jackson Burkett with you here on the program. 1038 in St. Louis. Miss anything? Podcast, Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers podcast. And, of course, talk it over in the YouTube. And you can go back and watch it on YouTube. 125 people are in there right now. Very active conversation. Jackson, that's what the Thursday Thoroughfare does, though, or DBA Ken's Mixed Bag. What is question number 3 here today?
Question number 3, Tim. So I don't really have a question.
Buying time.
That's right.
I saw question 3.
Oh, I have.
The Cardinals grade.
Yeah, I have that. I also.
Okay, wow. If you're going to call an audible, though, go ahead.
Well, I don't have any question around.
This is just a thought.
Rory's appearance on the Stick to Football podcast, talking about the Live and PGA situation.
But you're talking about this like people know what you're talking about.
Right.
Now, I know what you're talking about because we played audio from it on TMA this morning, and I actually watched the podcast last night. And I would recommend it, by the way. I think it's from Sky Sports, and the name of the podcast is Stick to Football. Now it's Europeans talking football, so therefore it's soccer, but they're interviewing Rory McIlroy. Yep. And McIlroy is very introspective on the way things have gone down with the PGA Tour and Live and the way he's handled it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is the background of what Jackson's referring to.
Thank you for the context.
No problem.
I just think it's such a while it is golf, it is such a bigger, like, it's kind of the first time, maybe it's not all true, but basically the first time in mainstream that we've seen foreign money come into sports at this level in America. In America, I agree. So I think it is a very...
It's been present in the EPL.
Yeah. Yep.
And it was controversial at the outset, similar to this.
Yeah, when they bought Newcastle, it was crazy. Having said all of that, I just think it's a very interesting, and it could apply to... All right, I like this. So, I like both of your topics. The Cardinal letter grade from CBS Sports, I'm in, and this topic, I'm in. Well, we got two segments. Whatever you want to do, you know what I've decided? You're a prince. Okay, I'm going to tease the Live and PGA stuff so I can think of a question on the fly to frame the discussion. So I'll start with my Cardinal question. CBS Sports has given the Cardinals a C grade for their offseason moves. Do you agree with that grade? Do you think in mid-November of 2023 that people would grade that the same, or has it dropped with time? What do you think the Cardinals faithful would grade this offseason? Cardinals faithful would be lower than a C without question. I think C is probably within the range for me. I'd be probably C, C plus, C minus, so I'm very comfortable with C being our median. I get here is, for me individually, like in a big picture, I like it because they haven't gone and put themselves in a spot where they are tied to a deal that you're going, like, there's just no way the Philadelphia Phillies in 2028 are going to be thrilled that they have Aaron Nola on the payroll. Now, contextualizing that part of the conversation and these long-term deals that have gone, will go to Snell and Montgomery at some point in the pitchers, if the Philadelphia Phillies get their first world championship since 2008, they may be able to say, yeah, okay, Nola, is now, using Vaseline on balls to throw him up there because he's 37, 38 years old. But it was worth it because in 2024, we brought the city of Philadelphia together and won a World Series. We'll never forget that. Without Aaron Nola, we don't do it. It just depends on what lens you view it through. I don't think the Cardinals are that close. Of course, as we were just talking about with the Blues, things can happen. But I view things through probabilities. And I just don't think it's there. I didn't think it was there before the Dodgers did what they did, and the Braves are doing what they're doing. And
of course, with the baseball playoff format being what it's being, things can change. But, man, would it be a big surprise if you didn't see one of the Braves or Phillies at the top of the National League East and the Los Angeles Dodgers at the top of the National League West. It's kind of college footballian in that way. And that okay, well, when it's all said and done, I don't know what the hell's going to happen. I just know Alabama and Georgia are somehow going to be in the mix. You just know it's going to happen. Baseball didn't used to be like that, with the exception of that Red Sox-Yankees era in late 90s, early 2000s. So I like that the Cardinals didn't give themselves an albatross of a contract, because that can hamstring an organization for years to come. Are the Cardinals now in a position to win a championship because of these moves? The answer is no. And so when Randy Carricker, for example, came on the morning after the, I believe, Sonny Gray deal and said, I don't know why you needed to spend whatever dollar figure it was he was talking about. I don't know if he was incorporating the Lynn and Gibson contracts along with Gray to be an average team. I'm paraphrasing what Randy said for the record. I totally understand where he's coming from. I think my position, this isn't like I am smarter, therefore, I'm just saying I know I'm kind of on an island on this, similar to my bowl perspective. Like, I love that Missouri beat Ohio State. I don't really care about bowls, and I wouldn't have cared if Missouri lost to Ohio State. I cared a lot when they lost to LSU and Georgia, and I loved the wins against Kentucky, for example, and K-State. So I realize I'm on an island on this going, God, I just hope the Cardinals don't screw themselves for 2027, 2028, and 2029 in November of 2023. Yeah. Because it ain't going to happen in October 2024, no matter what they do, unless they go so far outside the box and sign Yamamoto. So I like what the Cardinals have done. I just don't think they've done, because I'm looking at it through the big picture. As far as 2024 goes, they might win the Central. And then I suppose anything could happen. But to date, and there's still some big names out there, but to date, it's just kind of blah. I never would have expected the Lynn Gibson thing. Sonny Gray, God, if you could have said, okay, here are all the free agents, who will the Cardinals sign? I'll go, ooh, give me Sonny Gray. Yeah. It's textbook. But I like it because it's only a 3-year deal, and I like the Lynn and Gibson thing just because they're 1-year deals, and the club has an option if they are successful, and they want to bring them back, and they want to eat innings. I like it because I view 2024 as kind of a bridge year. Yeah. So I'm on board with it, but I think Cardinal fans are angry as hornets when it comes to the majority of Cardinal fans. Yeah, and I think in addition to that, and something we've talked about plenty is with what's going on with the TV money and the uncertainty with that, spending like crazy this offseason when the talent might not be worthy of it does not seem like a smart idea from a business perspective. I really want to, maybe now is time. I kind of wanted to see the free agent stuff come to an end. I want to sit down. I've done it before down in his office with Bill DeWitt III. And I just want to have a real, I don't care if it's off the record. If it's off the record, just so I have a better understanding of, like, what is this television situation? Yeah. And he's been on the podcast a couple of times, I believe, and his father's been on the podcast, and have a conversation and have an understanding of where this thing is, not just through the financial implications. And I realize a lot of fans care about that because it impacts what the club spends. Mm-hmm. But I think more people care about how they're able to watch games. Yeah. And how just outdated this is. So often technology gives you advances that you go, my God, I can't believe I can just click one button and I'm watching any movie. And sometimes you can do that without even paying for it now. And I'm not talking about illegally. It's just sitting there for you on YouTube. Right. Imagine that. Imagine telling yourself, not you, because you would have been too young, but my peers who bought 1 billion DVDs when we were in college, that those would all just be like totally cute obsolete little artifacts within a decade. Yep. Well, when it comes to sports television technology, somehow we've gone backwards. Yeah, regressed. It's phenomenal. But it also is now impacting organizations in the manner with which they do business, and therefore it could impact player salaries specific to baseball. So I find this to be, and maybe it's not for great radio, I don't know, but it is so, it's like in 2012, 13, 14, 15 in TMA, I feel at minimum every week and probably every other day we were talking about the Rams moving. Mm-hmm. And I don't think this matches the Rams moving. No. But I felt like if I'm going to be hosting a show and I'm in St. Louis and my belief is that the NFL team is going to move, it would be irresponsible to not talk about it. And I don't give a damn if they don't like it at Rams Park and they're not going to come on the show. F off. I don't need you on my show. I don't need guests. You know, I'm going to tell the audience what's going on and what evidence I have of it. And that's why I took my ass out to Oakland and San Diego and Inglewood and Carson to have a better understanding of the whole thing. And it was all said and done on the day of the vote. Kevin Demoff was texting me from inside that meeting room. So I had done my diligence and I knew where things were. And that's the responsibility. And so the responsibility here is if the Cardinals are in a spot where things are tight financially because of this television deal, it might not fascinate you because you're more interested in going on Twitter and bitching about no Blake Snell signing or something. But the television deal impacts why they're signing 36-year-old pitchers and guys to 3-year deals. I believe it's material because in St. Louis, they don't have the flexibility that they have in New York to throw $10 million at Harrison Bader for a year. And so this could impact not just the short term, but the long-term viability of the franchise. Your thoughts are welcome. 314-399-9646. We will have Jackson's deep tease and some sound and a response from Phil Mickelson. And this is much bigger than golf. Like, I love golf, but I don't talk about it much on here. But this is going to be bigger on it. I'll get into it because this is how the PGA Tour banged itself. That's next here on Balloon Party. Welcome back, 10:53 in St. Louis. Final segment of Balloon Party. Then Jackson and I go to youtube.com/TMASTL for the Tim McKernan Show podcast. And that's non-sports, Jackson. That's anything. Anything goes. And you can send your questions, comments, anything, insults, T. McKernan at InsideSTL.com or watch the program. All right, you set this up in the previous segment. Rory McIlroy appeared on the Stick to Football podcast. And I watched it last night because I read some of the quotes yesterday, and I thought I want to hear the context. Really good show. And I did hear the context. And he talked about a couple of regrets he had and also what the Live Tour exposed with regards to PGA. Now, you might be like, dude, I'm tired of this story. And I go, I kind of am myself. But I'm going to get to a bigger point on this that has really nothing to do with the game of golf and what I think may have been one of the most grotesque strategies I have seen in sports business in my life that was executed and failed. Jackson, if you would, play the sound.
But I think what Liv and the Saudis have exposed is, okay, well, if you have, a tour and you're going and you're asking sponsors for millions of dollars to sponsor these events and you're not able to guarantee those sponsors the players that are going to show up, it's very hard. I can't believe they've done so well for so long. Yeah. So it's actually exposed some flaws in the system that hopefully golf will have a look at more. Okay, well, if we're going to ask these people for so much money, we need to be able to guarantee them what they're getting. And I think that was part of the stuff that we've been trying to do for the last 2 years to figure out, okay, how can we basically try and bring the thing back together again and learn from some of the things that have happened and some of the stuff that Liv has exposed. And yeah, I feel like there was a way to do it where it wasn't going to be this massive disruptor to the game. And I think that's the other thing to me. It's like, it's created this massive upheaval in professional golf, which has been sad to see. And it's like some people have taken one side, some people have taken another. And golf's a small enough sport. It's not like football where you've got billions of fans. So if you start dividing the eyeballs in professional golf, it's no good for anyone. It's just going to cannibalize itself.
So Phil Mickelson was one of Rory McIlroy's targets throughout this whole process. And Mickelson sees what McIlroy says and tweets out this morning, this quote, and the many others made today by Rory probably were not easy to say. Let's not use this as an opportunity to pile on. Rather, it's time for me and others to let go of our hostilities and work towards a positive future. Rahm's signing is turning into a bridge to bring both sides together, as evidenced by the many comments today regarding McIlroy and a month ago about changing the rules for the Ryder Cup so John and others can play. So let's use it as such. Until an agreement is reached, it will be business as usual for both sides, but hopefully without the needless disdain. That right there could have been a moment where Mickelson dunked,
right,
social media dunking, on McIlroy, because McIlroy's quoted in full swing is saying, F off Phil, F off Liv. And here's Rory saying, and he goes on to say later on in the podcast how he was wrong and he judged guys for going to Liv. And the reason why this thing went off the rails from the beginning is because Jay Monahan, the commissioner of the PGA Tour, declined to take a meeting with the head of the Saudi Public Investment Fund, Yasser Al-Rumayyan, who he later, on June 6th of 2023, would sit in an interview and talk about now their alliance. Had he taken that meeting, none of this happens. It's weird to have a moment that defining, that impacted billions of dollars and an entire sport, but I believe that it did. And that's because Monahan, to date, had been in charge of what essentially was a monopoly and didn't want to involve another, quote, competitor into the arena. And so, well, you can't win. And the issue became their only defense against Liv was not to say that the product was trivial, moronic, the idea ridiculous, the team names, the teams, some of the players who were closer to the Champions Tour than they were to being forces on the PGA Tour. None of that. Instead, They demonized people for doing that which has been the centerpiece of the United States of America since its founding, which is capitalism. You are in the open marketplace. Somebody wants your services and will pay you more. Then you choose to go there. But as opposed to simply saying, oh, I'm going to go across the street and work for this person, I understand, shake hands and move on, you were considered to be unpatriotic. You were considered to be a traitor. And then you were considered to be supportive of the nation responsible for September 11th. That was the defense, not the product and lifting up your product. No, you demonized the people who went and worked for a place where they were going to make more money. And therefore, it became not a discussion of capitalism and is Live Golf better than the PGA Tour. It became good versus evil. And so Rory McIlroy, feeling like he's doing the right thing by standing up for his tour, joins in the voices of the PGA executives and calls them out for doing business with Saudi Arabia. Well, the issue is many companies in the United States and around the world do business with Saudi Arabia and have been for a long time. But in this case, the PGA Tour had no defense, and so their only mechanism was to demonize those who chose to do business with Live as if they were trading being American citizens. In addition to that, to bring out the victims of September 11th's families and have them stand outside a PGA Tour event, a Live Tour event, and use those people. And that's exactly what was done. They were used to try to keep their business going. From my standpoint, was so gross. In the moment, I thought it was gross. And now after the fact, now that he is sitting there with Yasser Al-Rumayyan, I have no idea how PGA Tour players, how guys who are on Live Tour, and PGA Tour executives and sponsors would ever want to continue to do business with somebody who would do something that, from my standpoint, is so grotesque. But that was their only defense mechanism. And so therefore, guys who simply just chose to go, well, I don't know if I'll ever make it on the PGA Tour. I'm Brooks Koepka. My body's breaking down. I was great, but now I'm not necessarily sure what's going to happen. I'm going to go take this money. They became bad for doing that. When plenty of people make the decision, you know what, I'm going to leave there because this place is going to give me an opportunity to make more money. But they're not called traitors to the United States for doing so. It was gross, and that's why Jay Monahan and the PGA Tour are in the spot that they are in. Time for us to wrap it up. For Jackson Burkett, I'm Tim McKernan. This has been Balloon Party on 101 ESPN.